Giants. Legendary beings from the folklores of almost all cultures across the globe. Said to have resembled humans, but massive in size and of immeasurable strength. All the proof we have of their existence is limited to art and stories passed from generation to generation, right? What if I were to tell you that there's documented evidence of giants having existed? The northern Piute Tribe are an indigenous group of people who live in what is now known as Eastern California, Western Nevada, and Southeast Oregon. The Piutes have a rich history of stories that have been passed on from generation to generation. One of these stories are of a race of beings known as the Siteka. Directly translated, Siteka means tool eaters. Tool being a fibrous water plant that was abundantly found around the massive lakes that used to dot the landscape. According to the Piute Stories, the Siteka were a tribe of giants that came from a distant island thousands of years ago. They are said to have crossed the ocean on rafts made from the fibers of the tool plant, and these giants were said to be so tall that large Piute men would stand at the height of their knees. They are described as being fair-skinned with fiery red hair and having spread terror and violence throughout the Great Basin. No indigenous tribes were spared. Extremely strong and very brave, these giants were also cannibalistic, often killing and eating members of the tribes they terrorized. After generations of being terrorized and killed, several tribes banded together to wage war on their collective enemy, the Siteka. After many battles, the tribes had managed to drive the remaining giants into a wide and deep cave, now known as Lovelock Cave in Nevada. While the giants hid deep in the cave, seeking shelter, the Piute and their allies lit massive fires at the entrance to this cave. The resulting smoke and carbon monoxide killed the majority of the giants, and those who fled through the fires were quickly dispatched by the warriors of the various tribes. Now this story sounds rather spectacular, doesn't it? Well, in 1911, while mining bat guano for a San Francisco fertilizer company, miners David Piute and James Hart found several artifacts buried 3 to 6 feet under the bat guano. Large amount of artifacts were destroyed during the mining process, but the mining company eventually contacted the anthropology department at the University of California after the amount of artifacts became so plentiful that it was no longer feasible to separate them from the fertilizer. In 1912, the initial excavation was conducted, and over 10,000 artifacts were found and logged. 12 years later, in 1924, a cache of 8 duck decoys, 2 incomplete duck decoys, and several animal traps were uncovered and later were radiocarbon dated to between 300 and 130 BCE. Also found in the cave was a woven textile sling, several fishing nets, a pair of sandals, and woven baskets. This isn't all though. There were also 8 sets of mummified remains found. These remains have been reported as being different heights depending on the source, but the majority report them as being in between 8 and 10 feet tall. No matter their height, they have been dated to somewhere between 4,500 and 900 years BP. BP being a time scale used in archaeology, geology, and other scientific disciplines to specify events that occurred relative to the origin of practical radiocarbon dating in the 1950s. The burials are also considered to have been in a way that is not consistent with how other tribal burials were done. What are your thoughts on the Lovelock Giants? Have things been misinterpreted, exaggerated, maybe even covered up? Let me know what you think, and until next time, stay curious.